Welcome to the Friday edition of the Patriot Radio News Hour. I am your solo host again today on this Friday. Joe is, I believe he's going to go bungee jumping in Ottawa. I guess once a year they wait for an Arctic system to come through and they do the cold plunge of a bungee jump in negative 25-degree weather. So maybe on Monday we'll have Joe after he gets back from his adventures. But today you'll have me, Jason, the Patriot Trading Group, gold and silver. The number to call is 800-951-0592. And we get you fixed up with true savings, real savings, the savings that actually holds its value, whether you owned a pre-33 gold piece in 1850, or if you hold it today in 2025, it'll buy you a cow. It'll essentially, you could trade that and get yourself an entire cow. The $20 bill, which used to be able to get you an entire cow in 1850, it can't even get you a steak dinner. I don't even think it'll for a family dinner. I'm not even sure it covers a tip nowadays. This is why you call us here at the Patriot Trading Group. We get you into that secure, protected savings, and it's secure and protected because it's a commodity. It's a thing. It is not a man-created idea. It is a God-created substance that has the properties that make it perfect for transporting easily and holding value against other things. It doesn't corrode. You could sink gold to the bottom of the ocean. Someone could find it 300, 400, 500, 600 years later. It's the same. Silver, not quite as sturdy, but it also doesn't cost you nearly as much. You can get a lot of silver versus an ounce of gold, and the two together is a great balance for your savings. And only you need to know where it is. Only you need to report it or talk to whoever you want to about owning it and where you store it. It's privacy, a word that you don't hear anybody in Washington, D.C. talking about protecting anymore. Privacy, economic privacy. It's disappearing every single day. So I got a couple clips I might be playing today. I'll jump into those here in a minute. I was covering a lot about the 1800s and what was going on, the fight against central bankers. I don't know if I'll go into that anymore today. I'll cover that maybe another day. But every single president, if you go through the 1800s, we had gotten at the very end of yesterday's show to James K. Polk and how he upheld Andrew Jackson's policies of an uncentral banked country, and that ended up holding until the Civil War and beyond. But I got a thing here. I got into gold and silver because I was spinning my wheels like every guy out there. You either buy the house or you're renting, and you got the wife, and maybe the baby comes, and you're trying to figure out how am I going to make all this work, and just keep working and work harder and harder and harder. And I was figuring out that paying off extra principal towards the mortgage, to get my debt paid down, try to stay out of debt, try to not to use credit cards, work harder, try to find a little more money here and there. And it just seemed like every couple of years there was always some minor emergency, and it would derail me economically, and I was scrambling even harder. And I was trying to figure out how to get into a better position, and it's because you have to have savings. A lot of Americans don't fully understand that savings is how you let's just look at the word save. It's how you save yourself. Savings is how you save yourself. And so I started learning about gold and silver, and my son Jack was in Cub Scouts. And then sometimes they would have their whatever they were doing for their meeting, and sometimes the dad would sit around and kind of let, you got to get the whole thing about Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, to get these boys independent. So you get some time sometimes to sit around and talk to the other dads, the boys are doing their thing. And I had this really intelligent guy. He is doing really well off, and I knew economically he was doing a lot better than where I was at the time. And I asked him, is it better to have zero debt and zero savings, Or is it better to have $100,000 in debt and $100,000 in savings? And he didn't, no hesitation. You must have the debt and the savings if that's the choice. Without the savings, you are going to, something is going to happen, and you're going to make it so that you end up in debt and have no savings. You know, like remember how I just said, every couple of years, something minor emergency would happen, I'd be left scrambling. Well, that's what savings is for. We have a lot of gold customers that come in and they sell to us because that minor emergency happens. The hailstorm came through during the summer, and they don't have the $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 deductible for get the roof redone. Somebody passes on a health situation. You know, going to the doctor, even with health insurance nowadays, is starting to cost a whole lot of money. So this is why you put it away. And I'll tell you, I'm going to continue on with that extremely good special. Gold is down a couple of bucks today. Let me get an up-to-the-minute update here. No, it's not even down very much. Gold's only down 50 cents, so it's holding. It's $1,713. $20 liberties, $2,775. 800-951-0592. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Friday. I know Arizona probably has better weather. I think it's probably going to get a little cold down there. This whole thing that's coming blowing in here is it doesn't look as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it's going to be cold starting later today, I guess. Highs in the teens, I suppose, for a couple of days, and overnight lows in the negative territory. So everybody, if you have to work out and that stuff, just I heard a couple in some of the northern Colorado areas we're going to have some snow blowing through maybe twice. So take it easy, because all it takes is one bad moment on an icy road to change your life drastically. Whereas if you just stayed off the road for a couple of days, you could avoid it. As a pizza delivery driver, I had a couple of situations where you're out there delivering, and the snow and the cold and the blowing actually was bigger money. So I actually liked it back in those days. But yeah, there was this one time this guy in a pickup truck just came and blew by me and threw snow all over the top of me, and I couldn't see where I was going. Hit the brakes a little bit, and then I just kept sliding and right into the curb. You know, bent the wheel and smacked. You know, just thousands of dollars repairs for the car. And that would have been a good time back then for me to have some gold to pay for the repairs. You know, when you're younger, you don't save money as well for a lot of people. So highly suggest if you got kids or grandkids, start getting them into buying gold and silver. So what I did with my son has been saving money, and we put it into gold and silver since he was 11, and it's worked out really well for him. So the Federal Reserve, the central bank, probably the worst thing that could have ever happened to America, and can happen to any country, is giving centralized, independent power of money creation to a corporation like the Federal Reserve, the Bank of England, and so on. I'm going to read off of a thing that I bring up once in a while. It's a lot about the Federal Reserve, how really truly bad it is. It's not that power corrupts. It is the corrupt that seeks power. Since the age of Jesus, there has been a battle between the money changers and the productive and abundant humanity. Jesus said unto them as he cleared the temple of the money changers, "My temple will be a house of prayer, but you have turned it into a den of thieves." This is the only time that Jesus got mad, and rightfully so, as he whipped the money changers and threw over the tables. Andrew Jackson was the only president to pay off the national debt, and that's because he eliminated the Federal Reserve of his time, the second bank of the United States. A quote from General Jackson: "Gentlemen, I too have been a close observer of the doings of the Bank of the United States. I have had men watching you for a long time, and am convinced that you have used the funds of the bank to speculate in the breadstuffs of the country. When you won, you divided the profits amongst you. When you lost, you charged it to the bank. You tell me that if I take the deposits from the bank and annul its charter, that I shall ruin 10,000 families. That may be true, gentlemen, but that is your sin. Should I let you go on, you will ruin 50,000 families, and that would be my sin. You are a den of thieves. I have determined to rout you out, and by the eternal God, I will rout you out. That's Andrew Jackson. But this did not keep the banking families from continually trying to prey upon humanity. The few who understand the system will either be so interested in its profits or so dependent upon its favors that there will be no opposition to this class. That's Baron Rothschild in 1863. The Federal Reserve is the most evil endeavor the world has ever seen. Since its inception in 1913, it has changed the very nature of money from a tangible asset into an intangible, exponentially growing debt. Here's a quote. This act establishes the most gigantic trust on earth. When the president signs this bill, the invisible government by the monetary power will be legalized. The people may not know it immediately, but the day of a day of reckoning is only a few years removed. The worst legislative crime of the ages is perpetrated by the banking bill. Charles Lindbergh, this is right around the time of passing the Federal Reserve Act in 1913. The Federal Reserve is not federal, and it has no reserves. It is a privately owned bank that has a monopoly power on the greatest force on earth, the U.S. dollar. Quote, most Americans have no real understanding of the operation of the international money lenders. The accounts of the Federal Reserve System have never been audited. It operates outside the control of Congress and manipulates the credit of the United States. Senator Barry Goldwater. The Federal Reserve is a cartel of privately owned banks that with offices all over the United States. These 12. This is another quote. There's a lot. I love the quotes in this piece because these are people that understand what's going on, whether they were pro-bank or anti-central bank. Quote, these 12 corporations together cover the whole country and monopolize and use the private gain every dollar of the public currency. Mr. Crozier of Cincinnati, before Senate Banking and Currency Committee, 1913. This is before they signed it. Whenever our government needs money, it must incur a debt or a treasury bond to give it to the Federal Reserve, and then credits the Federal Reserve notes in the denomination of the bond. But it is an indisputable fact that in order for the debt and interest, more debt must be created in excess of that debt and interest accrued. Our money system is being stated here is a debt money system. If you were to pay out in this system, if you were to pay off the entire national debt, there would be no money in the system, because if you use the money of the system, the debt that's floating around, and actually paid off the debt, there would be no money, because all the money is borrowed into existence because of the central bank. Here's a quote from Robert H. Hamphill, Atlanta Federal Reserve Bank. This is when he was in charge of the Atlanta Federal Reserve. We are completely dependent on the commercial banks. Somebody has to borrow every dollar we have in circulation, cash or credit. If the banks create ample synthetic money, we are prosperous. If not, we starve. We are absolutely without a permanent money system. It is the most important subject intelligent persons can investigate and reflect upon. It is so important that our present civilization may collapse unless it becomes widely understood and the defects remedied very soon. I don't have a year on that, but I think this was at least a decade or two ago when that was spoken. This is why we have gone from a nation of less than $4 billion in debt in 1913 to a nation well over $205 trillion of unfunded liabilities. This is an old writing. I think we're well over $300 and something trillion in unfunded liabilities to this day. Another quote from Charles Lindbergh. The financial system has been turned over to the Federal Reserve Board. That board administers the finance system by authority of a purely profiteering group. The system is private, conducted for the sole purpose of obtaining the greatest possible profits from the use of other people's money. Charles Lindbergh. This privately owned bank has collectivization of power that has spread debt and death throughout the world. Without this evil institution, so much of the world's evils would not exist, or at least to the extent that it does. We have in this country one of the most corrupt institutions the world has ever known. I refer to the Federal Reserve Board. This evil institution has impoverished and has practically bankrupted our government. It has done this through the corrupt practices of the moneyed vultures who control it. Representative Louis McFadden. There can be no free markets, no real freedom, for that matter, so long as the Federal Reserve exists. Money and power will consolidate to the top 1/10%, and all that will be left is poverty, slavery, and death. Here's a good one. See if you can guess who said this one. A great industrial nation is controlled by its system of credit. Our system of credit is concentrated in the hands of a few men. We have come to be one of the most worst ruled, one of the most completely controlled and dominated governments in the world. No longer a government of free opinion, no longer a government of conviction and vote of the majority, but a government by the opinion and duress of a small group of dominant men. That was Woodrow Wilson, the man who signed the Federal Reserve into law in 1913, and the Federal Reserve, the federal income tax also in 1913. So, Joe and I have been, we talk about how bad the central bank is and why it does what it does and causes the problems financially in this country that it does. But sometimes you really got to just take a nice hard focus at it and really fire away towards what is it that actually is causing a lot of the war, famine, poverty, homelessness, and a lot of the stress and anguish that most families deal with. You know, there's always going to be poor people and there's always going to be rich people, but it's better if the fortunes of the individual is left to the individual and not left to a system saying we're going to pick the winners and the losers. This corporation needs to get a government subsidy. This small business, it can try to survive on its own, but we will not help it. You know, when you have a worldwide shutdown and a shutdown in America, and Walmart and Kroger are open and not kicking you out for mask mandates or whatever, but yet the local grocery stores are being shut down, right? The local stores are shutting down. You know, they're not essential. There's something very wrong with that, you know. Churches have a 501c3 tax-free status that they protect so you know, that they protect it above all things, even their the partitioners that come to church every week. You know, it's a moneyed power over religion, over Christianity. You know, so many churches that should not have closed down during that time did, because of the moneyed power that put something in there that's a tax-free status. Which, let's face it, without the federal income tax, who was taxing churches in the 1800s? I think when you gave your money to your pastor, I think that was for him to continue preaching the good word, right? Not, hey, government, you're going to come in and take a piece. Unless we give you this form that you signed and you have tax-free status. And anytime you do something that we don't want, say the wrong things, push against our bank, we don't want your people in your church saying that you don't like central banks or that we should get rid of the Federal Reserve. We might have to get rid of your tax-free status. This is what I was reading earlier, that really all of the world's problems, all this country's problems stems from the economic controls of the system that's in place. Because those that own and run this bank, they'll do anything they can to keep it in its place and healthy from any competition. This is why in 1933, gold was taken out. The Federal Reserve was made in 1913. A World War was created immediately afterwards. Then a depression comes in. Gold is stripped from the people. And then, hey, let's get the rest of the Western nations in line. Let's start World War II. And so on and so forth. I'll be right back. 800-951-0592. That's the number to call. We have gold on special. You call 800-951-0592. You just heard a whole lot about the Federal Reserve, some of the history, some of the people in government and around government, around the Federal Reserve. These are all quotes. You can go on and on and on about responsible commentary about what the central bank is and how it's the scourge of the earth. It's a gigantic leech sucking the blood off of everybody. You are literally having this leech sucking the blood out of you. Every single one of you out there, if you're working. And even if you're not working, if you're depending upon somebody that is working to pay your bills, it comes out of your standard of living as well, because federal income tax is the collector for the loan shark, the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is the loan shark. The IRS and federal income tax is the collector. I love the movie Rocky Balboa. I love that first movie that Sylvester Stallone made, and especially the whole story about what he had to do to protect his movie and how this really made his career. But Rocky was a down on his luck club fighter, and had seen better days behind him, and just kind of the average guy. But he had a burning desire to do something if given the opportunity, which is what happens. But in the movie, he's a collector. He's got a loan shark who's in the big car, and he goes and has to threaten to break some guy's thumb to collect some money that he owes the loan shark, and that's the IRS. You want to know why people are afraid of the IRS? Is because who wants Rocky coming up to you and saying, "Give me the money, or I'll break your thumb"? Essentially, that's what it is. You're going to get your thumb broken when you go to prison for not paying your federal income tax. It's kind of the same thing. And the loan shark in those Rocky movies never went to jail. He just kept on running his business in Philadelphia, kept collecting his money, steered clear of the authorities. That's the Federal Reserve, a protected class that doesn't pay the price for, hey, let's create a war so we can enrich ourselves. And so $20 liberties today. Gold is your way of, if the loan shark comes to collect and you got your gold in a place where it can't be found, the loan shark won't be able to take it. You can do what you want with it, very private. It's savings that even if the moneyed elite, the Federal Reserve and those bankers across the world want to inflate the money, hyperinflate the money, cause the price of goods and services to rise slower or faster, but always going into there's always been inflation since I've been alive. You could protect yourself because gold is one of those things that will go up with that inflation. It is protected because it's going to cost more if the financial system is corrupt, which it is. I highly suggest that if you're sitting around thinking about it and you just haven't gone for it, if you've been listening to the shows and you don't know if you should buy gold, give us a call. We'll talk to you. If you have any questions, you can set up a meeting and not have to buy anything. But if you have the means, a $20 Liberty, a pre-33 gold coin, $2,775. I've been holding that price all week. I'm going to keep on selling them as long as we're at. I thought gold might go up again today, and there's no way I was going to be able to hold that price. But one last day. We're going into the weekend. And you can get $20 Liberty for $27.75 at 800-951-0592. I'm going to play a little bit of Gerald Celente. I came up on a clip. There's going to be a little bit of narration in it, but it's pretty good. Gerald Celente, he understands this stuff very well, and it's always good to hear somebody else saying essentially the same things. But let's see what he's said a few days ago. It's good stuff.
And one of our top trends for 2024 was that it would be a golden year for gold. Gold went up 27% in 2024. And it's going up again because of the geopolitical and economic uncertainty. End of story. I mean, you have one, again, we write about this. It's in your Trends Journal. India, the fifth largest economy in the world. They're estimating, I think it comes out in March, their GDP will be the worst since the COVID war began. You're looking at Germany, the third largest economy in the world, is in recession. Japan is on the brink of either one is hardly growing. You're looking at the currencies going way down. You're looking at the UK. They call it stagflation. It's not stagflation. It's not stagnant. It's declining. It's dragflation. Declining economic growth and rising inflation. And inflation is going to keep going up. Oh, it's not going up as fast as it was. Yes, it is. You look at the real numbers. Oh, the housing prices in America, where they've go up 50% since the COVID war began. Automobiles, up like 39% or something. Oh, now the insurance, and now with this thing going on in the horror over there in California, insurance. Oh, the hurricanes, the car insurance. So I'm telling you, it's going to be dragflation, declining economic growth and rising inflation. That's why you're seeing, as we see it, gold going up. I said to myself, I bet oil and gold prices are going to go up. And I started playing the futures markets. I turned a $10,000 bet, $5,000 in each one, into almost $750,000. And I quit my job. As a matter of fact, this is one of my books, Trend Tracking. Far better than Megatrends, Time Magazine. And I tell the story in this book. And that's when I started forecasting trends. I'm a political atheist. I mean, grow the hell up. How could you look up to the slime balls running the show? And again, I wouldn't know what I know if I wasn't on the other side. I was also, before I got the job with the Trade Association, I was the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate. I worked on major political campaigns in Westchester County, which is the richest county in America at the time, and designed and instructed a course called American Politics and Campaign Technology, how to run political campaigns. And that's the beginning of how I began. That's going back now 45 years ago when I started the Trends Research Institute in 1980. And I called it at that time the Socioeconomic Research Institute of America. Because anytime you talked about trends, oh, you mean fashion trends? Oh, you mean music trends? And by the way, that's the same stupid crap that people talk about now. Google up top trends for 2025. They don't mention us.
While reflecting on fundamentals, Gerald Celente critiques the overvaluation of markets, highlighting the dominance of major players like Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street, which control 88% of the S&P 500. He warns that rising interest rates, treasury yields, and inflated...
Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street own and control 88% of the S&P 500. Sounds like you don't have much choice when it comes to your 401k, does it? We'll be back with a little more of the Patriot Radio News Hour. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Patriot Radio News Hour, 800-951-0592. Gold and silver. We got $20 Liberties for $27.75. Gold's been going up most of the week. Might end up going up today. It's started off a little low and it seems to be climbing back. Let me check it out. I got gold now $1 up, so it's on this Friday. Sometimes gold likes to sneak up and go up late Friday when everybody's getting ready for the weekend. And so once again, now at $2,716, gold is sneaking very quietly towards record highs, which is $2,780. And watch out, these coins that I'm not getting enough customers out there that you're listening out there to buy these coins. I'm telling you, next week you got Martin Luther King and they got the big deep freeze and the news has got you looking in other directions. Gold on Tuesday and Wednesday, we might see it just crest past that 2780, and then who knows? Does it go from 2780 straight to 2900? If it does that, as January comes to an end, we get into February, does it start to hit straight to 3,000? And then I will literally on this show in the next couple of weeks, if it actually starts to perform in that direction, if it starts to behave that way, I will come on the air and shame all you guys that had the money to actually buy it here on a Friday before the inauguration. Remember, there will be a lot of irrational exuberance around the new administration being sworn in Monday. I think you're already seeing Bitcoin climbing. The markets are getting a little excited. All the billionaires are lining behind Trump. And once again, what is the snake oil salesman when he brings his horse and cart into the old West town? He comes in with excitement and entertainment and fireworks and gets everyone excited and sells his wares. And then he leaves town, and everybody ends up with a whole bunch of stuff that they can't sell to each other. It ends up, 88% of the S&P 500 owned by Vanguard, State Street, and BlackRock. So you may see gold and silver rise with these other assets when Trump takes office, and you could have bought them for $2,775. Probably, if you look at the website, we already have these priced at $2,825. So we're already $50 above what this special is. And we've been running this, I think, since Tuesday, or this price. And gold has gone up now 3 out of 4 of those days. So once again, if you want to buy gold, you want to buy $20 Liberties at that price, it's 800-951-0592. Let me play a little bit more of this Gerald Celente piece. We got a little narration going on. I'll play a little more. I was going to do some Lynette Zhang. I don't know if we'll have time for that today, but let's listen to a little more of Gerald Celente.
NASDAQ valuations could harm markets. According to the minutes of the U.S. Central Bank's latest meeting, Federal Reserve officials see a rising risk that inflation may remain sticky in the U.S. as policymakers begin wrestling with the impact of policies from the incoming Trump administration. It was trending down, the Federal Reserve was cutting rates, and attention could move on to averting a recession and sustaining employment. A global surge in bond yields and a big rally for the dollar ensured that the last consumer price inflation numbers for 2024, published Wednesday, will command attention. If the consensus of the economists interviewed by Bloomberg is right, then the December number will mean more frustration, with core CPI remaining 3.3%. However, Celente sees Trump as a potential wild card, referencing how Trump pressured the Fed to lower rates in 2018 to boost the economy. He argues that similar moves might artificially prop up the economy again, influenced by the powerful billionaire backing behind Trump. Let's get back to the interview.
One of the big ones is the whole NASDAQ is so overblown. We had forecast in our Trends Journal in 1999, and we used to be a quarterly back then, in the last quarter, that there would be the dot-com bust by the second quarter of 2000. And it did. It busted in March. It's way overvalued. Yes, AI is the future. There's no question about it. But these companies are way overinvested. Hundreds of, probably trillions of dollars into the whole market. And then you have to look at the numbers. You take a look at the S&P 500. 3 companies own it, 88% of it. Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street. 3 companies own 88% of the S&P 500. The thing is, the 1% control 54% of the markets. When you put in 10%, it's over 90%. So the markets are totally rigged, and they're totally overvalued. And now the big fear is, as you can see what's going on, that the Fed's not going to lower interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
You're only going to lower them twice. And then you're looking at the housing. You're looking at the mortgage rates going way up. Looking at the yields, Treasury yields going way up. This is all negative for the markets. Why are you going to invest in the markets when you can get your 5% plus, in a safe bet? That is going to hurt the markets. But again, going back to the wild card with Trump. Let's go back to 2018. Not ancient history. In December of 2018, it was the worst December for the Dow since the Great Depression, 1931. Remember, the markets crashed in 29. What did he do? He forced the Fed head, Jerome Powell, to lower interest rates. And he did in January. So the wild card is Trump is going to do everything he can to pump up the economy. If he forces the Feds to lower interest rates, that's going to artificially prop the economy up again.
How can he force them?
It's one big club. They're all. Look, you need more proof. Look at this Facia Brut, who's the current.
We'll replay some of that where he starts to talk about it's one big club because it's worth rehearing. We'll close the show up here on the next segment. Stay with us. 800-951-0592. Get that gold. Get it on a Friday before who knows where it goes next week. We'll be right back. The number to call is 800-951-0592. I've been pressing all hour. I usually don't push so hard, but I really think this is a good buy. I think this is a really, really good buy. I think you may want to scrape some together and get one of these gold coins. You can always go to allamericangold.com or you can call the number and order silver or order any of the other things on the website. You don't have to have $2,775 necessarily to get a roll of dimes or a roll of quarters, a roll of silver eagles. But the buy today and the buy all week has been these $20 gold pieces for $27.75. 800-951-0592. I'm going to play a little bit more Gerald Celente as he's talking about how rigged it is. It's not. It's even Joe's been saying it. Joe's a Trump voter and he's a conservative, absolutely. But Joe's been saying it's like Trump is not going to save this economy. There is no man in Washington, D.C. that's going to save the economy or be some kind of a hero economically. These decisions are made. Presidents, Congresses, Senates, the Supreme Court. They don't impact this. They're the ones that put it in place because they're paid to do so. So let's listen to Joe Celente. Oh, hang on one second.
Trump is going to do everything he can to pump up the economy. If he forces the Feds to lower interest rates, that's going to artificially prop the economy up again.
How can he force them?
It's one big club. They're all. Look, you need more proof. Look at this Facia Brut, who's the current Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen. Where'd she come from? Oh, she was the former Fed head. Wait a minute, the former Fed head's now the Treasury Secretary? Yeah, you got it. Mm-hmm. It's one big club. Powell bent over. Look at Powell. Look at the little nothing of a boy he is. Look at all of them. These are little ballish guys. And Trump is a tough guy. He'll tell them what to do. And again, look at the billionaires behind Trump. Look who's running. Look who's going to be running the show. They're going to do what they want. They're going to do everything they can to pump up the economy.
Short-term price predictions for gold suggest an increase in its value and demand in the next years, at least until 2030, showing the price could gradually rise to around $7,000 an ounce. What are your thoughts on gold's potential as a safe haven investment?
Couple of years, $7,000 an ounce. It is very possible, and it is going to happen at one day, I would say, in the near future, whether that be 2025, 2026, 2027. Gold can double and triple over. It's done this before. Let me just take a quick look at the old historical gold price charts. Let me do some percentage rises from the past. 2001 was up 1.4%. That's not very much. But then in 2002 it was up 24%. The next year up 22%. The next year up 5%. The next year up 17%. The next year up 24%. The next year up 32%. Then up 3%. Then up another 28%. Then up another 28%. Then up another 12%. Then up another 6%. That's 12 years of rises on the gold price. And economically, that was around the great housing collapse that we dealt with in 2008. The economic problems we have currently are a hangover. This is the can kick down the road. We're going to see those percentages get more extreme. You may want to get yourself righted. 800-951-0592. Join me. I might have some fun on the Half Empty Cup of Joe. You might want to switch over to 1360.